After 10 years of being excluded, I bought a beachfront resort. Then I booked it full and told my mom, just like your house, mine's out of room. They finally got back what they gave. Can you imagine being told your own family's beach house, the one you grew up with, was suddenly too full for you, year after painful year? Well, last week, after I built my own beachfront empire, I finally got to turn the tables on the very person who orchestrated all that exclusion, my mother. And trust me, it felt incredibly satisfying. For years, I was Samantha, the forgotten middle child. We grew up just outside of Boston. My parents, Caroline and Richard, my older brother Ryan, and my younger sister Megan. From the start, the dynamic was crystal clear. Megan was Mom's obvious favorite, Ryan was Dad's fishing buddy, and me? I was just there. My mom, Caroline, was a high school English teacher with a flair for the dramatic and a desperate need for everything to appear perfect. She'd grown up poor, then married my dad, an accountant whose career steadily progressed. Mom always had big social climbing dreams, and she projected those ambitions onto her children in different ways. The favoritism toward Megan was glaring. I'd bring home straight A's, and Mom would glance at my report card and say, "That's nice, honey," before rushing to hang Megan's C+ art project on the refrigerator, gushing, "Look at the creativity." Ryan could do no wrong in my father's eyes. His average grades? Focusing on the important things. His participation trophies? Displayed prominently. Dad was a quiet man, always avoiding conflict. If I ever tried to talk to him about the unfairness, he'd just pat my shoulder and say, "Your mother means well," or "That's just how families are, Sammy." His passivity allowed this whole painful dynamic to fester for years. Then, when I was 13, everything changed financially. Dad got a huge promotion, and suddenly, we had disposable income. After years of listening to Mom talk about her childhood friend's family beach house, my parents bought one in Cape Cod. It was modest but beautiful, a 3-bedroom with private beach access. It became the crown jewel of our family, the place Mom could finally entertain and show off her achievement of the American dream. Those first few summers were actually pleasant. I remember helping Dad grill seafood, building sandcastles with Megan before she decided I was uncool, and long walks on the shore with my first high school boyfriend. But even then, there were signs. In family photos at the beach house, I was always on the edge or half hidden. "Samantha, move back a bit. The sun is catching your glasses." Mom would direct, even on cloudy days. Later, in the framed photos displayed at home, I'd often be cropped out entirely. My academic achievements continued to be overshadowed. When I got into an advanced science program, Mom just nodded, already preparing for Ryan's basketball game. When I won the state science competition, she was busy helping Megan prepare for a tiny role in the school play. "Your father, and I can't be everywhere at once, Samantha," she'd snap whenever I expressed disappointment. The beach house became Caroline's status symbol. She joined the local yacht club, no, we didn't have a yacht, and started hosting elaborate weekend gatherings for her Cape friends. During these events, I was always assigned to kitchen duty or told to watch the younger kids, while Megan was proudly introduced as my youngest, so talented in the arts. By the time I graduated high school as valedictorian, I was used to my background role. I'd built a life around academic success and a small circle of friends who truly valued me. I thought college would change things, that distance might make my family appreciate me more. I couldn't have been more wrong. The real exclusion began when I decided to attend MIT instead of my mother's alma mater, Wellesley College. "Engineers aren't very feminine, dear," she commented when I showed her my acceptance letter. "And you already struggle with that." The subtle digs at my appearance had been constant throughout my adolescence. I preferred practical clothes over the dresses and makeup Mom tried to force on me. My first semester at MIT was challenging but exhilarating. I finally found my people, other women in STEM who shared my passion for solving problems and building things. When Memorial Day weekend approached at the end of my sophomore year, I expected to join the family at Cape Cod, like we always had. The Wednesday before, I called home to coordinate my arrival. "Oh, Samantha," Mom said, sounding surprised. "We assumed you'd be too busy with your new internship. We've already invited the Hendersons to use your room." I'd mentioned the internship once, in passing. It wasn't even starting until mid-June. That was the first accidental exclusion, and it set the pattern. When I tried to discuss my hurt feelings, Mom just responded, "You're being overly sensitive, as usual. We thought you were focused on your career. Don't make this about you." Over the next few years, the pattern became undeniable. Invitations to family gatherings at the beach house came last minute, if at all. It was always a spur-of-the-moment thing, they'd claim, despite the elaborate preparations evident in Megan's Instagram photos. Thanksgiving of my senior year at MIT marked a turning point. I arrived home to find my bedroom converted into what Mom called a crafting room for her new hobby. "You can sleep on the pull-out couch in the den," she informed me casually. "You're only here for a few days anyway." Meanwhile, Ryan's childhood bedroom remained untouched, complete with his high school sports trophies, even though he'd moved to Chicago years ago. That Christmas, 3 days before the holiday, I got a text from Mom. "We're doing Christmas at the Cape House this year. It'll be cozy with the Wilsons joining us. Not enough space for everyone, so we thought you'd prefer to celebrate with your roommates since you mentioned how close you all are." I hadn't mentioned anything of the sort. During my final year at MIT, I started dating Ethan. He was studying architecture at Harvard and was the first person outside my friend group to notice and point out the exclusion pattern. "It's not normal, Sam," he said after I was forgotten from a family 4th of July gathering. "They're gaslighting you." Over the next 5 years, I made countless attempts to repair whatever was broken. I sent thoughtful gifts, made regular calls, and visited whenever I was allowed. On one rare visit to the beach house, I overheard Ryan tell his wife, "I know it's not fair how they treat Sam, but Mom gets so defensive if anyone brings it up." Yet, he never stood up for me publicly. To process what was happening, I started documenting the exclusions, saving texts, emails, social media posts. My therapist said it wasn't obsessive. It was a way to validate my experiences when my family was trying to convince me it was all in my head. The emotional toll was immense. I remember seeing Instagram photos of a family vacation to Martha's Vineyard that I knew nothing about. Everyone smiling, even distant family members I barely knew. I broke down in my apartment, sobbing on the bathroom floor until my roommate found me. That's when I started therapy. Dr. Lisa Hartman helped me understand family scapegoating and how my mother's narcissistic tendencies had cast me as the outsider. "You can't change them," she explained gently, "but you can change how you respond." The final straw came during a Labor Day weekend, 5 years after graduation. Not only was I not invited to the beach house, but my mother had the audacity to invite Ethan, my boyfriend of 3 years. "We thought you'd be busy with work as usual, but Ethan mentioned he's never been to Cape Cod," she said when I confronted her. Ethan, of course, declined. But the message was clear. It wasn't about space or timing. They simply didn't want me there. After years of trying to earn my family's approval and inclusion, I made a conscious decision to channel my hurt into professional success. If I couldn't find belonging in my family, I would create my own path where I was valued. I started my career at a promising tech startup in Boston, developing software for property management systems. The irony wasn't lost on me, helping others manage their vacation properties while being excluded from my own families. The job was demanding but rewarding, and I quickly established myself as a problem solver. While working full-time, I started moonlighting on a side project. Having experienced firsthand the emotional connection people have to vacation properties, I recognized a gap in the market. Existing rental platforms were transactional, but I envisioned something more personal, a platform that would connect travelers with unique coastal properties while also telling the stories of these special places. I named it Coastal Connect and coded the first version myself on weekends and late nights. When a small test launch showed promising results, I took the biggest risk of my life. I approached several venture capital firms with my prototype and business plan. To my surprise and delight, Horizon Ventures saw the potential and offered initial funding. Leaving my stable job was terrifying, but exhilarating. For the first time in my life, I was pursuing something entirely mine, no family expectations or judgments attached. I rented a tiny office space and hired 2 employees, Aisha, a fellow MIT grad, and Marcus, a marketing specialist who understood my vision. The first 2 years were a roller coaster of technical challenges, competitor pressure, and constant stress. There were nights I slept on the office couch, weeks I forgot to call anyone outside work, and moments of doubt. But we persevered. Our unique approach of highlighting the stories behind properties resonated. By year 3, we had expanded to 15 employees. By year 5, we crossed the 100-employee mark and moved into a proper office overlooking Boston Harbor. Our platform now featured properties across all coastal regions of the U.S., with plans to expand internationally. When Forbes included me in their 30 under 40 list, profiling innovative entrepreneurs, I sent a copy to my parents. My father called with congratulations. My mother sent a text, nice photo. Glad that business degree from Wellesley worked out for you. I had graduated from MIT with a computer science degree, remember. The financial independence that came with success brought something even more profound, a chosen family. Colleagues became friends, mentors became confidants, and clients became supporters. We celebrated company milestones with genuine joy, had heated debates about product direction that ended in hugs, and supported each other through personal challenges. This was what family was supposed to feel like. My relationship with Ethan, unfortunately, couldn't withstand my success. You're never present anymore, he complained during our 5th year. The truth was more complicated. As I grew more confident and established in my identity, I became less willing to accommodate his need to be the more successful partner. When he referred to my company as your little website during a dinner with his colleagues, I realized we had no future together. Dating as a successful female entrepreneur proved challenging in ways I hadn't expected. Men were either intimidated by my success or saw me as a trophy. I had a few short relationships that ended when they realized I wouldn't diminish myself to suit their egos. I was no longer the accommodating middle child desperate for approval. Then I met James at a tech conference in Seattle. He was running a nonprofit focused on teaching coding skills to foster youth, having grown up in the system himself. When I shared some of my family history, he nodded with understanding, not pity. Family isn't always blood, he said. Sometimes it's who actually shows up for you. His emotional intelligence and complete comfort with my success were refreshing. As Coastal Connect continued to grow, we attracted acquisition offers from larger travel platforms. After careful consideration, we decided to remain independent but pursue an IPO. The day our company went public was surreal. Watching the opening bell with my team, seeing our years of hard work validated, knowing I had created something of lasting value. At 33, I became a multimillionaire, at least on paper. The financial security was nice, but the true reward was proving to myself that I could create something meaningful from the pain of exclusion. I had turned my understanding of belonging into a successful business that helped others create memories in special places. The irony was not lost on me. The discovery of what would become my own beachfront property happened entirely by accident. I was on a business trip to Florida's Gulf Coast, scouting potential premium properties for a new exclusive collection tier on Coastal Connect. James had joined me, turning the business trip into a mini vacation. We were driving along a less developed stretch of coastline when I spotted it, a modest but charming resort with a weathered "For Sale" sign swinging in the sea breeze. Serenity Shores Resort, the sign read. Something about the property called to me, and I asked James to pull over. Walking the grounds, I was struck by an unexpected sense of déjà vu. The main building had the same weathered cedar shingles as my parents' Cape Cod house, but on a larger scale. The property featured a central lodge with reception and common areas, plus 12 separate cottage units facing the ocean, each with its own private deck. The resemblance to an expanded version of my family's beach house was uncanny. It looks like your mom's place, James observed quietly, but with room for everyone. My first thought was, purchasing this would be an act of petty revenge, a way to say, I have my own beach house now, and it's better than yours. I dismissed the idea as childish, and we continued our tour of other properties. But that night, in our hotel room, I couldn't stop thinking about Serenity Shores. The next morning, I called the number and arranged to meet with the property agent. Lisa, a straightforward woman in her 50s, gave us a proper tour and shared the resort's history. Built in the 1970s by a couple who wanted a family-friendly beach retreat, it had passed to their son, who had maintained it lovingly, but was now retiring. It's been in the same family for almost 50 years, Lisa explained. They're hoping to find a buyer who will keep its character rather than tear it down. For condos. The price was substantial, but not unreasonable. Still, I hesitated. Was I considering this for the right reasons? I consulted with my financial advisor, Morgan. Sentimentality aside, she concluded, it's actually a solid investment. Tourism in this area is growing steadily, the property is well maintained, and beachfront real estate in Florida isn't exactly going to decrease in value. I spent the next week researching everything about the resort. The more I learned, the more I could see its potential, not just as an emotional purchase, but as a sound business decision. 2 weeks later, I met the owners, Eleanor and Henry Thompson, over dinner. They shared stories of families who had been coming for generations. "We're not just selling a property," Eleanor said, her eyes misting. "We're passing on a place where people have made their most precious memories." Something shifted in me during that conversation. This wasn't about one-upping my mother anymore. It was about creating a place of genuine welcome, the opposite of what I had experienced for so many years. I made an offer the next day, slightly below asking, but with a promise to maintain the character and retain the current staff. After some negotiation and a slightly increased offer, the Thompsons accepted. The closing process took 2 months. The night after closing, I stayed alone in the owner's cottage, now my cottage. Sitting on the deck with a glass of wine, watching the sunset over the Gulf, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. Pride in what I had accomplished, lingering sadness for the family bonds I had never truly had, excitement for what this place could become, and a surprising sense of peace. The renovations began the following week. I hired Sophia Chin, a renowned interior designer who specialized in coastal properties. Together, we created a vision that honored the resort's history while elevating its comfort and appeal. "I want every guest to feel the sense of belonging that I had searched for my whole life," I explained to Sophia. "I wanted to feel warm and welcoming, but not pretentious. A place where people can exhale and feel at home." Each cottage was updated. The main lodge was reconfigured for more gathering spaces, a library, a game room, a state-of-the-art kitchen for cooking classes. I took particular pleasure in adding features my mother's precious beach house lacked: a stunning infinity pool overlooking the ocean, private cabanas, a fire pit for evening gatherings under the stars. Every addition was made with genuine guests in mind, not as a showcase to impress others. As the renovation neared completion, I decided to change the name. While Serenity Shores had served it well, I wanted something that reflected my vision. After much consideration, I settled on Harmony Haven, a place where diverse people could come together in a harmonious environment, finding the sense of welcome and belonging that I had sought for so long. Looking at the resort's transformation, I realized I had created something far more significant than a response to my family's rejection. I had built a physical manifestation of the welcome I had always craved, and now I could extend that welcome to others. News of my resort purchase reached my family through the most predictable channel, social media. I had posted a few professional photos of Harmony Haven on my Instagram, mentioning my excitement about this new venture. Within hours, a mutual family friend had texted my mother. Caroline's phone call came the next day. Her voice carried that familiar tone of forced casualness that always preceded criticism. "Samantha, darling, Janice Peterson showed me pictures of some hotel you've bought in Florida. Isn't that a rather impulsive decision for someone in?" I explained it was actually a 12-cottage beachfront resort, not a motel, and that I had done extensive due diligence. "It's a sound investment with excellent growth potential," I added, knowing the business justification would be my strongest defense. "Well, I just hope you know what you're doing," she replied. "Property management is complicated. Your father and I have had the Cape House for 20 years, and it's constant work." I bit back the observation that I'd been excluded from that house for half of those 20 years, and instead thanked her for her concern. The conversation ended with her typical dismissive, "Well, good luck with that," which had punctuated so many of our interactions. My brother Ryan was next, sending a congratulatory text that quickly segued into, "So when can the family come for free vacation, LOL?" When I didn't immediately respond, he followed up with, "Just kidding, sis, but seriously, we should plan a family get-together there sometime." Megan's response was perhaps the most predictable. She posted a throwback photo of our family's Cape Cod house with the caption, "Nothing beats the original family beach house." So many precious memories here with Mom, Dad, and Ryan. #blessed #family tradition, conspicuously excluding any mention of me or my new property. I might have let all of this slide, if not for what happened next. My parents' 35th wedding anniversary was approaching, and my mother had been planning a celebration at the Cape House for months. I knew this because Ryan had mentioned it casually. Mom's going all out for their anniversary in July, he'd said. You should try to make it if you can. 2 weeks later, a formal invitation arrived, an ivory card with embossed gold lettering announcing a weekend celebration of Caroline and Richard's 35 years of marriage at the Cape Cod house. At the bottom, in smaller print, we regret that due to space limitations, we cannot accommodate everyone for overnight stays. I sent a generous gift, a weekend package at a luxury spa resort near their home, along with a heartfelt card expressing my regret that I couldn't attend due to prior commitments with Harmony Haven's opening preparations. The gift was delivered with signature confirmation, but I never received so much as a text acknowledging it. Through Ryan's wife's Instagram posts, I discovered that not only had several distant cousins been invited to stay at the house for the anniversary weekend, but also 2 couples I had never met, apparently new friends from my mother's garden club. The space limitations were clearly selective. James found me crying in our Boston apartment after seeing these posts. You know this isn't about you, right? He said gently. This is about her inability to celebrate your success. I bought a whole resort partly because they said their house was too small for me, I admitted through tears. How pathetic is that? It's not pathetic, James countered. You took pain and turned it into something beautiful and successful. But now you have a choice about how to use it. This resort can be about revenge, or it can be about healing. His words stayed with me as I finalized plans for Harmony Haven's grand opening, which coincidentally fell on the same weekend as my parents' anniversary celebration. I had initially considered postponing it, but now I decided to proceed as planned. Instead of focusing on my family's exclusion, I created a guest list that included people who had supported me throughout my journey, my first employees, mentors, friends, who had provided shoulders to cry on after particularly painful family incidents, and even several people I knew who had similar experiences with family estrangement. I hired a renowned chef, engaged a popular local band, and arranged for a photographer. The resort would be fully booked for the opening weekend, with each cottage hosting special guests who had made a difference in my life. As preparations progressed, I posted occasional updates on social media, professional photos of the completed renovations, teaser menus, announcements about some minor celebrities who would be attending. I wasn't doing this to provoke my family, but I wasn't hiding my success either. About a week before the grand opening, I received an unexpected call from my mother. The resort's renovation had been featured in a regional lifestyle magazine, which apparently one of her Cape Cod friends had seen. Samantha, she began, without preamble. Judith Whitman showed me an article about your Florida place. It looks quite nice. More commercial than our beach house, of course, but impressive for a first property. I thanked her politely, waiting for whatever would come next. Your father and I were thinking we might drive down to see it sometime. Perhaps after our anniversary celebration? Is there a good time in August? For a moment, I was that hopeful middle child again, eager for any scrap of parental attention. Then I remembered James' words about healing versus revenge and realized there was a third option, healthy boundaries. I'd be happy to show you around, I replied carefully. But August is actually our busiest month. We're fully booked through Labor Day, in fact. Maybe sometime in the fall would work better. There was a pause. Fully booked? But surely you have some pull as the owner? You could make arrangements for family. And there it was. The expectation that had defined our relationship for so long, family meant accommodating her needs while she accommodated everyone but me. I take the guest experience very seriously, I explained. I don't override bookings, even for family. Especially for opening season, when we're establishing our reputation. Her tone chilled considerably. I see. Well, your father and I were hoping to combine it with a visit to the Hendersons in Naples, but never mind. We'll figure something out. The conversation ended shortly after, but I knew this wasn't the last I would hear about it. My mother had never responded well to having her expectations challenged, and I had just established a boundary she hadn't anticipated. Sure enough, the next day brought a text from my father. Your mother is quite upset. Perhaps you could make an exception for our anniversary for the sake of family harmony. It was the closest he had ever come to directly asking me for something, which made the manipulation all the more effective. I spent an hour drafting and redrafting my response before sending it. I'm sorry, Dad, but the resort is genuinely fully booked through September with non-refundable reservations. I'd love to host you and Mom in October when we have our fall specials. You could stay in our premium oceanfront cottage for as long as you'd like." His response was brief. "We'll discuss it and get back to you." I knew what that meant. They wouldn't be coming, at least not until my mother found a way to position it as her idea. The week before Harmony Haven's grand opening was a whirlwind of final preparations. The landscaping crew put finishing touches on the tropical gardens, the housekeeping staff meticulously prepared each cottage, and the kitchen team practiced the special menu until every dish was perfect. As the owner, I was involved in every aspect. The first guests began arriving 2 days before the official opening, close friends and early supporters who had helped make both Coastal Connect and Harmony Haven possible. I had arranged for a pre-opening dinner on the beach, a casual affair with tiki torches, local seafood, and acoustic music. Standing on the deck overlooking this gathering of people who had truly seen and supported me, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. These were the people who had celebrated my successes and comforted me through disappointments. They had never made me feel like an afterthought or an inconvenience. This, I realized, was what true family could be. James joined me on the deck, sliding his arm around my waist. "You did this," he said quietly, following my gaze to the happy gathering below. "You created not just a beautiful place, but a beautiful community." The official opening day arrived with perfect weather, bright sunshine, a gentle breeze, and the Gulf of Mexico displaying its most spectacular turquoise hues. Local press arrived for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, along with tourism officials and neighboring business owners. The resort was fully booked with a diverse mix of guests. I was in my office reviewing some last-minute details when the front desk manager knocked on my door. "Miss Walker, your mother is here." For a moment, I thought I had misheard. "My mother, Caroline Walker?" He nodded. "She says she wanted to surprise you for your opening. She's in the reception area." My heart raced as I made my way to the front of the resort. Caroline stood in the center of the lobby, examining the custom lighting fixture we had commissioned from a local artist, a cascading arrangement of blue and green glass pieces that resembled ocean waves. She wore a crisp white linen suit that probably cost more than some people's monthly rent, her hair perfectly styled, as always. "Mom," I said, genuinely surprised. "I wasn't expecting you." She turned with a practiced smile. "Darling, I couldn't miss my daughter's big day, could I? Your father sends his regrets. Someone needs to host the anniversary party after all." The passive-aggressive dig was so typical that I almost laughed. Of course, she would position her appearance as a sacrifice made on my behalf, rather than acknowledge she was choosing to be here instead of there. "It's good to see you," I said, meaning it despite everything. "Would you like a tour?" The next hour was surreal. I showed my mother around the property I had poured my heart and resources into, watching her take it all in with a practiced neutral expression that occasionally slipped to reveal genuine surprise at certain features. "The infinity pool is certainly dramatic," she commented, running her hand along the edge where water seemed to spill directly into the ocean beyond. "A bit flashy for my taste, but your guests will probably enjoy it." "They already do," I replied evenly. "We've had nothing but 5-star reviews for our soft opening period." As we walked through the meticulously designed common areas, I could sense her calculating the investment each feature represented. "You've certainly spent a fortune," she observed. "It's an investment in quality and experience," I corrected. "Every detail has been carefully considered to create a cohesive environment where guests feel both pampered and at home." The tour continued through one of the premium cottages, currently unoccupied. My mother took in the ocean view from the private deck, the luxurious king bed, the spa-like bathroom. "This is quite nice," she admitted reluctantly. "Different from our place, of course. Ours is more authentic. This is more like a hotel." "That's because it is a hotel, Mom," I replied with a smile. A boutique resort specifically designed to make guests feel special. As we completed the tour and returned to the main building, we encountered James chatting with Sophia Chin, the interior designer, and Alejandro Vega, the celebrity chef I had hired for our opening weekend. I made introductions, watching with a mixture of amusement and satisfaction as my mother's demeanor shifted upon realizing she was meeting people whose names she had seen in magazines. "Sophia Chin, your work in the Hamptons was featured in Architectural Digest, wasn't it?" she gushed, suddenly animated. "And Chef Vega, I've tried to get reservations at your Miami restaurant for years." The subtle positioning had begun, my mother attempting to establish herself as someone of importance, someone who belonged in this world of success and recognition. It was a dance I had watched her perform countless times at the Cape House with her important friends. I suggested we have lunch on the private patio of the resort's restaurant. As we were seated at the best table overlooking both the pool and the ocean, I could see her taking mental notes, likely for stories she would tell her friends back home. So, she said, after ordering an expensive champagne, you've done well for yourself. Your father and I always knew you would. I bit back the urge to point out that they had never expressed any such confidence in me. Instead, I simply thanked her and steered the conversation toward neutral topics. It was during dessert, a local specialty of key lime pie with a modern twist, that she finally revealed the true purpose of her visit. Samantha, about your father's and my anniversary weekend, she began, setting down her fork. We've had a slight change of plans. The persons have had to cancel. John's back is acting up again, and that leaves us with an empty guest room at the Cape House. I waited, already knowing where this was heading. It occurred to me that this might be perfect timing. We could have our celebration, you could join us after all, and then your father and I could drive down to see your place the following week. It works out beautifully for everyone. The invitation was so transparently conditional that it was almost comical. Now that she had seen the resort, met the celebrities, and calculated the success it represented, I was suddenly welcome at the anniversary party that had been planned without me. That's a thoughtful offer, Mom, I replied carefully, but unfortunately, I can't leave the resort during our opening weeks. As the owner, I need to be present to ensure everything runs smoothly. Her smile tightened slightly. Surely you have managers for that sort of thing? This is a special family occasion, Samantha. It is, I agreed, which is why I sent that spa package for you and Dad. I hope you'll enjoy it after your celebration. About that, she said, her voice taking on the slight edge I knew so well. The spa is lovely, but what we'd really prefer is to come here. We could arrive next Friday, the day after the anniversary party. I assume you can arrange accommodations for us? Nothing too elaborate, just one of the nicer cottages, preferably the one you showed me earlier with the ocean view. And there it was, the assumption that had defined our relationship for years. The expectation that her preferences would automatically override any other considerations, including commitments I had already made to others. I took a deep breath, centering myself before responding. Mom, as I mentioned before, we're fully booked through September. That includes next weekend. Every cottage has been reserved for months, many by people who are here specifically for our opening festivities. Her expression hardened. You're the owner, Samantha. Surely you can make arrangements? Move some people around? Offer them a discount or something. I don't operate that way, I said firmly. I respect the commitments I've made to my guests. Just like your beach house has been too full to accommodate me for the past 10 years, my resort is too fully booked to accommodate you next weekend. The moment the words left my mouth, I saw the shock register on her face. For perhaps the first time in our relationship, I had named the pattern directly, instead of accepting her excuses. That's entirely different, she said, her voice rising slightly. Our house is small, you know that. We can't always fit everyone. And yet, somehow, there's always room for everyone except me, I replied, keeping my voice level. Ryan, Megan, distant cousins, your garden club friends, they all seem to fit just fine. I don't appreciate your tone, she said, straightening in her chair. I've come all this way to support you, and this is how you thank me? By bringing up ancient history and making accusations. It's not ancient history, Mom. It's a consistent pattern that continues to this day, I said quietly. I wasn't invited to your anniversary celebration until you saw my resort and decided it might benefit you. Her face flushed. That is absolutely untrue. We always wanted you there. There were simply complications with the accommodations. There always are, I said quietly, but the truth is, I've built something here that I'm proud of. I've created a place where people feel welcomed and valued, the opposite of how I felt in my own family for years. I don't have to listen to this, she said, dropping her napkin on the table and standing up. I came here to support you and to try to include you in our special celebration, and you've turned it into some sort of childish revenge. I remained seated, looking up at her calmly. This isn't about revenge, Mom. It's about boundaries. I would love to have you and Dad visit the resort when we have availability. October is beautiful here, and I'd be happy to reserve our best cottage for you then. October, she scoffed. That's months away. We wanted to combine it with our anniversary trip. Just like your house, Mom. Mine's out of room too, I said simply. I'm honoring the commitments I've made to the people who are actually here for me, not just when it's convenient or makes them look good, but consistently, through everything. She stared at me for a long moment, a mixture of anger and something that might have been a flicker of realization crossing her face. Then she gathered her designer purse and squared her shoulders. I'll be leaving now. Please have someone bring my car around. I'll walk you out, I offered, standing up. That won't be necessary, she replied coldly. I can find my own way. I always do. As she walked away across the restaurant patio, her white linen suit bright against the blue ocean backdrop, I felt a strange combination of sadness and liberation. For the first time in my adult life, I had named the reality of our relationship and held firm to a boundary. Whether she acknowledged it or not, something fundamental had shifted between us. And regardless of how she chose to respond, I knew I would no longer measure my worth by her approval or inclusion. Despite the dramatic confrontation with my mother, Harmony Haven's grand opening weekend was an unqualified success. The resort received glowing coverage, with particular praise for the thoughtful design, exceptional service, and warm atmosphere. Several guests extended their stays, and our booking calendar quickly filled through the fall season. The emotional aftermath of my mother's visit took longer to process. I found myself cycling through familiar feelings of guilt, anger, and sadness in the weeks that followed. Had I been too harsh? Should I have found a way to accommodate her just this once? The old patterns of self-doubt were hard to break. James was my rock during this time, listening without judgment. You set a healthy boundary, he reminded me. That's different from rejecting her. My family's reactions were mixed and predictable. My father called a week later, his voice carrying its usual conflict-avoidant tone. Your mother is quite upset, Samantha. Perhaps you could call and apologize for the sake of family harmony. I'm open to talking with her, I replied carefully, but I won't apologize for stating the truth or setting boundaries. Ryan surprised me with an unexpected show of support. He called late one evening. I saw the photos of your resort, he said. It's amazing, Sam. And I know Mom has always been harder on you. I should have said something years ago, I prompted. Why didn't you? His sigh carried years of complicated family dynamics. It was easier not to. I'm not proud of that. Megan, predictably, doubled down on her loyalty to our mother, posting a series of throwback photos from family gatherings at the Cape House with captions about true family values. I simply muted her accounts rather than engaging. As summer transitioned to fall, I channeled my energy into making Harmony Haven everything I had envisioned. We established a quarterly chosen family weekend, offering special rates and activities for groups of friends who consider themselves family. These weekends quickly became some of our most popular events, booking out months in advance. Inspired by my own journey, I created a scholarship program for young entrepreneurs from difficult family backgrounds, providing both financial support and mentoring. The application essays I read reinforced what I already knew. Family trauma was common, but it didn't have to define one's future. In October, I received an unexpected email from my mother. The subject line read, "Simply thinking of you." The body of the email was brief. Your father and I have been reflecting on our family dynamics. If the October offer still stands, we would like to visit your resort. Caroline. It wasn't an apology, but it was an opening. After consulting with James and my therapist, I responded with dates that would work and confirmed that our best cottage would be available. I look forward to showing you Harmony Haven in the beautiful fall season, I wrote. With love, Samantha. Their visit was neither the complete reconciliation I had once desperately hoped for, nor the disaster I had sometimes feared. My father seemed genuinely impressed by what I had built, while my mother maintained a polite appreciation that occasionally revealed glimpses of genuine admiration. We had dinner together each night, carefully navigating conversations that stayed mostly in safe territory. On their final evening, as we shared dessert on the deck of my private cottage, my father cleared his throat in the way he always did before saying something difficult. I owe you an apology, Samantha, he said, surprising me. I should have been more present, more aware of how you were being treated. I failed you as a father. Tears sprang to my eyes unexpectedly. In all my imagined scenarios of family reconciliation, I had never anticipated my father taking this kind of responsibility. My mother didn't offer a direct apology, But later that evening, as they prepared to leave, she held my hands in hers and said, "You've built something remarkable here, Samantha. Something entirely your own." I'm beginning to understand that now. It wasn't everything, but it was something. A crack in the wall of denial that had defined our relationship for so long. In the year that followed, our family relationship slowly evolved. Some improved. My father began calling regularly, genuinely interested in my life and business. Others maintained a polite distance. My mother and I established a pattern of monthly phone calls that stayed in safe conversational territory. And some remained complicated. Megan continued to view my success with a mixture of envy and resentment that made real connection difficult. James proposed on the private beach of Harmony Haven during a spectacular sunset in December, presenting a ring that represented our journey together. Not a traditional diamond, but a rare blue sea glass surrounded by small pearls. "Because you turn the rough edges of life into something beautiful," he explained. As Harmony Haven celebrated its first anniversary, I reflected on the journey that had led me here. The resort had exceeded all business projections, but its true success couldn't be measured in occupancy rates or profit margins. Its greatest achievement was in becoming a place of genuine belonging, for guests, for staff, for the community we had created, and ultimately for me. The exclusion that had once wounded me so deeply had led me to create a space specifically designed for inclusion. The rejection I had experienced had taught me the profound importance of welcome. The family that couldn't make room for me had inspired me to build a place with room for everyone. That's the thing about life's most painful experiences. They can destroy us, or they can transform us. They can make us smaller and more fearful, or they can challenge us to create something new and beautiful from the broken pieces. I chose to build rather than break. I chose to create rather than simply criticize. And in doing so, I found not just success, but healing. What about you? Have you ever turned pain into purpose or rejection into creation? How have difficult family dynamics shaped your life choices? Thank you for being part of my story today, and remember, sometimes the people who don't make room for you are unknowingly pushing you toward creating something bigger than they could ever imagine.